Hello, good day to you. Joko Christian here. And in this session, we're going to talk about planning procurement, stakeholder, and planning review in project management series. Now. Okay, so today's learning objective is, after completing this meeting, you will be able to understand the process involved in planning procurement, the process involved in stakeholder management, and process involved in planning review. We'll start with project procurement planning. Procurement is a process where you try to buy stuff, whether it's physical or non-physical, that's needed to progress or that is needed in your project to further progress your project. It's still in the planning phase, and in project procurement management, there are one process in planning process group, one process in execution, and one process in monitoring and controlling, one process in closing. The procurement itself is required for goods and service from outside the project team to perform the project itself. The contract management and change control process is required to administer the contract or purchase the order issued by authorized project team members. Administering any contract issued by an outside organization, the buyer, that is acquiring the project from the performing organization, the seller, and administering the contractual obligation placed on the project team by contract. So basically, when we're talking about procurement is how we administer, how we manage the contractual obligation. This is the keyword actually, because we create a contract to outside organization, to other organization, and each party will have a contractual obligation to perform. So what is contract? A contract is legally binding, detailed, formal document that refers to an entire agreement between two or more parties. All terms and conditions of contract must be met. Anything not mentioned in the contract is not legally binding. This is very important, not legally binding if it's not explicitly put on the contract document. There are many types of contracts regarding to cost, and this is one of the main point when we're talking about contracts, because I mean procurement contracts, yeah, because sometimes cost is very dynamically changed. So we're going to talk about some idioms, some definitions that you need to know that usually is being used in contracts, procurement contracts. Let's see, there's a fixed price here. Fixed price, we call that FFP. There's a firm fixed price. This is a very firm, means not changing. And there is fixed price and incentive, FPI. There is idioms for cost reimbursables category, cost plus fee or CPPC, cost plus percentage of cost, CPFF, cost plus fixed fee, CPIF, cost plus incentive fee. And in the time department, we'll have to detail the full value of the agreement and the exact quantity of items that needs to be delivered in the at the time of the contract's award. This chart will show you the proportion of risk between the buyer and supplier. If we agree to a different kind of payment contract types. As you can see here, if we have firm fixed price, it's called lump sum. So there is a high risk from the supplier side. This is how we read it. The more high this line is, which means the supplier will have a bigger risk and the buyer will have lower risk. So the example is like when you buy, hey, I want to buy 20 cars for my projects. I want it to be delivered next month, and I want the fixed price. So the buyer knows I have to pay this kind of amount. Whether there is a trouble of supply within the supplier side, we as buyer didn't want to know about that. So the risk for the buyer side is quite low when we try and we use firm fixed price. But if we use fixed price and incentive, there might be a little difference between the first agreeable, not agreeable, but the first projection of costs and the actual costs, because there's a difference in incentive that can change, and it's factoring time, factoring the condition, the environment, and the project itself. So when we use fixed price and incentive, the price can change. The buyer risk is still not as high, but it's not as high as FFP. If we use cost plus incentive fee, it is a middle ground here. Cost plus fixed fee, the buyer risk is a little higher, and the buyer risk is the highest in cost plus percentage cost. So if there's a change in supply and demand in the market, there's a probability that the buyer needs to pay more, and this type of payment needs to be explicitly mentioned in the contract. Because if you don't specifically mention it in the contract, you will get a problem when there is, and usually there will be a problem in the field when the supplier didn't commit, or the supplier having a trouble of supplies to be delivered to you as a buyer. And maybe they say, hey, I need more costs, but that's not mentioned in our contract. Now, if we already explicitly say, hey, I'll buy your goods or your services in a fixed price, then it means they must deliver their goods or services in that fixed price. But if you agree with this CPPC, that means that the payment might be recalculated based on the real condition in the field. Okay, in the project procurement management process, in the execute department, there's conduct procurement. In the plan, there's plan procurement, control procurement, and close procurement. We're still talking about this plan procurement. What is planning procurement? How many, what to purchase and what to acquire, how many to purchase or acquire, when to purchase or acquire, and how to purchase or acquire. This is the 4 big things that you need to know and you need to divine when you started planning procurement, because not all goods or all services needs to be bought or needs to be rented in the first day of the project. Sometimes it needs to be postponed in the mid-project or even in the last part of the project. The process of documenting project purchasing decision, specifying the approach, and identifying the potential sellers is what we call planned procurement. So what is the input? The input is project management plan, requirement documentation, and so on until organizational process assets. There will be 7 outputs: procurement management plan, statement of work, procurement documents, source selections criteria, make or buy decision, change requests, and project documents updates. Okay, this is just the more definition for planned procurement inputs. The tools and techniques that are needed is make or buy analysis. It is to determine whether a product or service needs to be procured or can be produced by the project team. We do this analysis by comparing and analyze these components: capacity, capability, exploit, shift risk, long range. Is there idle resource, want to control, or confidential information? The tools and techniques, number 2 is expert judgment, and number 3 and 4 is market research and meetings. The output is procurement management plan, which includes types of contracts, person who will define the independent estimates, action independent on the organization procurement or regulations, and so on until procurement metrics. The procurement statement of work defines items that being purchased or acquired, and it should be clear and complete and concise. It can be revised and refined as required as it moves through the procurement process. The procurement document itself is used to solicit proposals from prospective sellers, requests for information, bids, proposals, and negotiations. There are source selection criteria as one of the outputs. It's often included as part of the procurement solicitation documents, and the decision to make or buy with the updates of project documents. Okay, the second part is planning stakeholder management. Project stakeholder management have one process in planning process group and have one process each in initiating, execution, and monitoring and controlling. We're talking about the planning side. Stakeholder itself is people or organization impacted by the project during the project time and by the project product. Project stakeholder management required to identify the people, the groups, the organization that could impact or be impacted by the project, analyze the stakeholder expectation and their impact on the project, develop appropriate management strategies for effectively engaging stakeholder in project decision and execution. This is the project stakeholder management processes in each process group. We're going to talk about this one, the second one, plan stakeholder management. To develop appropriate management strategies to effectively engage stakeholders throughout the project lifecycle is the definition of plan stakeholder management. It is created to provide a clear and actionable plan. The key is actionable plan. What we are going to do to interact with project stakeholders to support the project's interests. The input is project management plan, stakeholder register, enterprise environmental factor, organizational process assets, using the tools and techniques of expert judgment, meetings, analytical techniques, engagement levels, to output 2 documents, which is stakeholder management plan itself and project document updates. Now, I'm going to talk about analytical techniques. It's called engagement levels, desired and current. So we're going to list our stakeholders. Let's just say in our project, we have 3 stakeholders, stakeholder 1, 2, and 3. And we're going to state their engagement level. Okay, there are a few categories here: unaware, resistant, neutral, supportive, or leading. Unaware means doesn't know. He doesn't know. Resistance means they are not supportive. They do not 100%, or even they can be very resistant to the project. Example, when you say you have, I have a building project, and the neighborhood, the society in the neighborhood is not supportive of the project, and we can call, they are also stakeholders here. So the stakeholders is not always a part in the big team. No, stakeholders is can be people that are organization that is impacted by the project. So this is the definition, okay? People or organization impacted by the project. So it doesn't need to be our team. It doesn't need to be someone from inside, but it can be from the outside. So they can be resistant. Okay, the example is like what I have told you. When you're trying to building something, and the neighborhood, the people in the neighborhood is resistant about the project. Neutral means they can go with the project, but they don't really support, neither resistant about it. Supportive, they are very supportive. And leading means this is the stakeholder that's currently having a big impact on our project by leading the process, by promoting the process. So we'll make this matrix, the engagement level. And after we have this matrix, we can try to formulate a plan what to do with that stakeholder. Okay. The other stakeholder is out of our, the other stakeholder management, control and manage is not in this slide, but I'm going to give you a little example. You can just checklist this one. The project sponsor is the one that's leading it. The local government is supportive. The, wait a minute, let me put it in the middle. Local neighborhood is being neutral about it, and basketball is supportive. Badminton youth organization is, let's say, resistance. Okay, let's put it like that. Now, this is the current condition. When we create this kind of metrics, it is the current condition. We're going to put current and desired. So actually, we can change the matrix, become like this. I'm going to change the X become the current, and the current. Now we're going to put our desire. We want the stakeholder to become in what position? Normally, when we found something in the resistant column, we want it to be better. Hey, I want badminton youth organization also having a better point of view, and they become at least neutral or supportive. We want it supportive, but at least neutral. So we desire them to be neutral. On the basketball youth organization, they are supportive, but we want them to help us to lead. Leading the community. There's many definitions of leading here. Okay, not just leading the project, but leading part of social engagement for the project. We can call that too. The project sponsor is naturally leading. The local government should be only supportive. So that's why we put C and D here. C and D here. The local neighborhood, we want it to be more supportive. D. So when you see this pattern starting from the check mark X, and then we change it into the current and desirable, okay, desired, okay. Now you can see that there's a gap. when you see there's a gap between the C and D, means there is something that you need to do. When you find the gap. So in the this task, we're going to find which one is having a difference between C and D. So there's a local neighborhood, there's basketball youth organization, there's badminton youth organization. And we're going to make a plan what we're going to do with those stakeholders so they change their opinion from current opinion to desired opinion. So that is the main idea why we need to have stakeholder management plan. Any question? The third part is planning review. And this still in part in the planning process group. And as you can see in this planning process, there are very much planning that we have done, starting from project integration management until number 10, project stakeholder management, the one that we already talked beforehand. And what is this part? The part of planning review. We're reviewing the 10 plan that we already created. So we already have the project integration management plan, we already have the project scope management plan, and so on until the last one, project stakeholder management plan. We're going to see it from bird's eye point of view, and we're going to try to see if there is anything that can be fixed, or anything that needs to be changed, or anything that room for better improvement. That's the essential gist of planning review. Because each plan is correspondent to the project integration management, each other plan. Now, project scope management planning process outputs. Project scope management is the inputs, requirement, VBS, and so on to become project integration management. Project time management to become project integration management. Project cost management to become project integration management. Project quality management become project integration management, and so on, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, which mean from number 2 until number 10, all needs to be output into project integration management.